So you think you're ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Let's call the regular meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Additions, deletions, changes to the agenda for this evening. So we will need to discuss, does not explicitly set forth in a regular agenda, filling the vacant council seat. Hi, Jackie, you're closer. Appropriately. And in addition, since Councilmember Alec has now resigned, we need a council member appointment to replace Mr. Alec on the ZBA or anybody else. And if somebody wants to volunteer, I think we don't have to fill that seat this evening, but soon. So something else to discuss. I guess, let's see what we got here. Perhaps we can. Do we think we're going to need a motion with regard to seeking a new council member? Do we need a motion to take the steps we have to take? And are we just going to be able to administratively put out there that there's a vacancy in council?
We accept the resignation.
Oh, I know that.
That's
Yes.
telling us that we wait the 30 days, then we can go for
No, it's not waiting. We have to fill it in 30 days.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Filling it within the 30
Mm-hmm. So I mean, if we need a motion to put that out there that we're looking to fill a seat, I mean, we need to actually add it as an agenda item. And if it can just be handled administratively, then we can just discuss it and don't have to add it as an agenda item. And Kim's not here, so.
But wouldn't the regular agenda number one kind of kick that whole thing off?
Yeah.
That's what I would think. That would kick off the administrative part of it.
Well, that's exactly what I'm inquiring about, whether it can just be handled administratively, or do we need a motion? Technically, legally, blah, blah, blah. It should be on the agenda if we have to actually vote on it, if it can just be handled administratively. For the moment, what's your thought, Stephen?
We're prepared to handle it administratively, Mr. President, and I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that when Councilmember Jackalone resigned, that we handled that appointment administratively as well. I don't think there was any motion from council that directed us to proceed with the publication of a notice in the paper and making sure that the information was on our website, et cetera. We're prepared to do that.
Okay,
There's my kind of here, Steve. I agree with Pete. Even if it doesn't say we're appointing somebody, it's on the agenda. There's a resignation, and the resignation by charter automatically says that we have to fill the position. So I think that counts as the agenda item. I don't think we have to have a specific agenda item saying we're appointing the council member to go forward.
need a motion for you, and my recollection as well. Just wanted to make sure, and didn't want to blow by something that needed taken care of.
Still need to do roll call.
Because we did pledge of allegiance and call to order. Where I was going was I was starting with the agenda with changes, additions, deletions. So that's where I was going with it. So Lisa, roll call.
President Schneider,
Present.
President Pro Tem Dyke, Councilmember Kalka,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
Councilmember Glasser,
Present.
and Councilmember Steffler.
Thank you. Okay. Communications, actually nothing for this meeting. Consent agenda, the minutes of our March 7th meeting. I found one little thing on page 4, number 10. The second paragraph of 10, the CEDAM Community Development Fellowship Program. Second paragraph, third line down, to apply to CEDAM to become I presume that word is supposed to be host as opposed to hose, unless we're going to hire a hose. So maybe we can fix that. I didn't see anything else in the minutes that needed correcting. Anybody else on the minutes from March 7? General fund. Your streets, local streets, Parks and Recreation Fund, Downtown Development Authority Fund, Sewer Fund, Water Fund, Equipment Fund, Payroll Register Report, Water Report, DPW Monthly Report, Wastewater Treatment Plant Monthly Report, Police Report.
Back on the wastewater treatment, or maybe I'm ahead. It's page 27, Village of Elmont Monthly Water Usage Report. Just wondering if that's a decimal point error. Second chart, January, under Kingsbrook, 841 million gallons. Or 800,000 million. Right underneath it, it says 0.84 million gallons. Just a
Looks like
decimal
one
point.
is in gallons and one is in million gallons.
Yeah, that's what I think. And I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, either they used a really lot one month and then no water the next month.
And on page 26, the mileage for the Elmont Department of Public Works vehicles, the 2012 International Dump Truck. I think the mileage is off on that too.
Should be 464. There's an extra one in there.
Thank you,
And
Brian.
then for the Kingsbrook, it should be 841,000 gallons.
Yeah. But
Roughly.
the units above says million gallons, so
Yeah.
it should be 0.84
Yes.
roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They use almost 1 million gallons a month.
Yeah.
Almost.
Welcome. All right. OEO report. Construction Authority report. As long as Construction Code Authority. Financial position report. Next is the clerk treasurer's report. David, I don't know whether you know the answer to this. If Kim was here this evening, I would be asking her about this. Under the meetings section of her memorandum to us, a number of issues were addressed when she had attended the MMTA Treasure to Treasure webinar. And the last issue that was addressed was PRE changes. So I deal with real estate pretty fair amount of the time. So PRE, I believe, is principal residence exemption. Do you have any knowledge what those changes were to PRE?
The thing I can think of offhand is that legislation is being introduced again to have the state come up with a funding mechanism to reimburse municipalities for veterans exemptions, which I was able to verify with our assessor today that we have 7 exemptions here in the village, 23 total in the township, and the financial impact to us is a loss of $8,500 a year. So that's the only thing I can think of related to PRE changes.
Sense, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. DDA Executive Director's Report. Entertain a motion. Motion by President Pro Tem Dyke, supported by Councilmember Steffler, to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously approved. Now is public comment time for one of our regular agenda items. There's any public comment for a regular agenda item? Being none. Okay, regular agenda, council member resignation from Councilmember Alec, and his letter presented to us, and what our charter says in terms of filling the vacancy within 30 days. So-
Motion that we accept the resignation letter from Councilmember Alec.
Motion by Councilmember Steffler, supported by President Pro Tem Dyke, to accept the resignation of Councilmember Alec. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have one question, Steve. So Kim did write on here to have it be the consensus of the council to advertise the council vacancy in the Tri-City Times and have a deadline of April 12th for someone to apply.
Instead of a motion, but fine.
So your instincts were correct. Good job, Doug.
Yeah,
Consensus is different than a motion, though.
yeah, yes, yeah,
Yes.
right. It's the position of the majority of the members of council. So
But you were in the right. that
It was
we didn't take any action.
close, right? All right, so I'm just, council have any issues as far as what our clerk treasurer indicated, that we have a consensus that there's a reaching out to fill the vacancy.
I would just suggest that besides advertising, that we put it on the website.
Yeah, could be on Facebook, right,
Yeah.
as well. Okay, all right. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resignation is accepted by council. Regular agenda item number 2, Planning Commission member reappointment. So, like, it seems like all of our governmental bodies have issues. Planning Commission, DDA, ZBA. So at the last meeting of the Planning Commission essentially nominated Bernie Kalka, Glenn Meek, and Gary Zender to renew their terms. So I think we need, the proper way to do it is a motion with regard, reappointment and motion with regard to each of them. So I am going to reappoint Bernie Kalka, who's a valuable member of the Planning Commission, for renewal of his term. ending March 31, 2026. And is it an ice cream truck somewhere? I'll take one if you got. Did you bring an ice cream cone with you? Yeah, well, stuff happens. And I'm reappointing Bernie and requesting council ratification of Bernie Kalka to reappointment to the Planning Commission. We have a
The motion that we accept your recommendation or your appointment of Bernie Kalka to the Planning Commission.
motion by Councilmember Steffler. Was it Pete? Yeah. Supported by Councilmember to reappoint Bernie Kalka. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed. Unanimously ratified. Next, I'm going to reappoint Glenn Meek, longtime member of council, and is now, fortunately because of human circumstances, the sitting as chair. He's the vice chair, and he's now sitting as chair of Planning Commission for a period of time. And so I'm going to reappoint Glenn and request council member ratification. Do you have a motion?
So, go ahead.
I'll make the motion that we accept your appointment of Mr. Glenn Meek to the Planning Commission.
Motion by Councilmember Steffler, supported by Councilmember Kalka, to ratify the appointment of Glenn Meek to the Planning Commission. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Glenn is reappointed. And last is Gary Zender, a somewhat newer member, but has been, again, a valuable addition to the Planning Commission. I'm going to reappoint Gary and request council ratification.
I will make a motion for Mr. Gary Zender to ratification to the Planning Commission.
Motion by Councilmember Kalka, supported by Councilmember Glasser, to ratify the appointment of Gary Zender to the Planning Commission. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously ratified, appointed and ratified. Okay. Regular agenda item number 3, master plan update. Manager Trent?
Thank you, Mr. President. In your packet, council, is a proposal from Rowe Professional Services with our planning consultant, Caitlin Haben, outlining the scope of services, some optional studies that could be incorporated into the proposal, as well as some public engagement forums as well. In her summary, she noted that the Township Board or the Township Planning Commission had approved one optional study plus 2 of the public forum engagements, one being a survey and then one being the excuse me while I get to the right item there. The master plan open house. And our planning commission reviewed the options that were available as well. And in light of the fact that there are a lot of details and information that's unique to the village as far as information in the master plan, even though it's a joint master plan, the planning commission felt that there was benefit to taking advantage of some of the other options that were outlined by Rowe, and that included the housing study, utility evaluation, as well as the non-motorized transportation. And we concurred with the township as well as far as the two public engagement surveys, one being the public attitude survey and then the master plan open house. As I mentioned in my memo, we do have some technical assistance funds that are available from MEDC because we're an engaged community with RRC. And so the total cost for what the Planning Commission is recommending to you folks that we budget for next fiscal year would be $20,075, and we would be applying for a grant with MEDC to cover half of that cost.
It might be important to also note that the discussion of the planning commission is one of the reasons we recommended going with the 3 additional options for more data and information. The 2018 deep dive to the planning commission was not a deep dive, it was just a skim. It was a skim update. We haven't really done a deep update since 2012, so it's almost an 11-year period since we've really gotten deep data into the master plan. So that's one of the reasons that both Caitlin and the Planning Commission agreed that going with those 3 options was important to gather important information going forward for the planning purposes.
In the passage of 11 years now, with all,
Wait another 5 years, it would be almost
Yes.
10 years of planning with old data. So that's one of the main reasonings why we went with all 3 of those options for additional information.
many things have changed in a continually accelerating world. So, yeah, bringing us up to date is important.
And we had a pretty lengthy and detailed discussion on all of the options and what would be best, what we, the planning commission would thought would be best for the village and for the village township moving forward with the planning over the next 5 years. So.
Yeah, that was a good update, Tim. Yeah. Mhm. So we're looking for village council approval of the planning commission's recommendation for contracting with Rowe of $20,075.
So is $20,075 the total fee, or is that the village's half and then the township?
$20,075 is the village's cost. With our grant, that would cover half of that cost. The township is on their own for their half of the basic scope and the 2 public engagement forums. I didn't total up what their portion would be, but it looks like it would be a little over $13,000 is their portion. So actually with our grant money, we end up getting more services at less cost. So.
Discussion regarding our joint master plan.
A motion to approve the PC recommendation for contracting with Rowe Professional Services to update the joint master plan with Almont Township, including the 3 optional studies and 2 public engagement services at a cost of $20,075.
Motion by Councilmember Kalinka, supported by Councilmember Steffler to approve the joint master plan recommendation of our planning commission as set forth on the record. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously approved. Moving on to lead and copper replacement as to Johnson Street. Hello, Brian.
Hi. So in October, I came to you guys and asked for $50,000 to replace lead and copper on Johnson and Branch Street. With it, I had an estimated of 15 services. At 31, I had an estimate for 3,100 a piece at 15 individual addresses. The company came in and has been working in the village. Because of the way that things are going, they had to charge us hourly because we're not doing full replacements. I don't want to say my estimate was wrong, but because the records were not good in the past, we're actually not finding as much lead and galvanized as we anticipated. But we still have to pay the company to go through the process. The company is taking care of all the appointments with the residents. They're doing most all of the work except for hauling dirt and gravel, which we are stepping in and trying to do that to offset the cost. But I have appointments with residents and I have no more money left. So I'm asking for another 25,000, and I have the money in my budget through my operating expenses. The company is still working. I'm here to ask for forgiveness and permission because they've already completed 3 out of the 7 remaining services. So going forward, we got a pretty good idea of how to do this program. We really weren't sure how to do it when we first started it. There's a lot of good that came out of it, but unfortunately we're spending money there's only been a couple of full replacements on services, which I also have a lot of inventory left now too for like next year when I want to budget to do some more next year. So that's a good thing. But the amount of lead we're barely finding any lead, and I anticipated a lot more. We're finding galvanized, and we're replacing the galvanized just because it's, was at one time probably connected to the lead. So basically I can answer any questions. They have done, I think, approximately 3 services, 3 more services after the invoice of the 47,000. They're here now. I'm getting stuff done, and I don't want to wait until next year to come back. And I'd like to finish Johnson Street is what I'm doing. There's 7 addresses. Branch Street's all done. The services that touch Johnson Street off of Centennial are done. Basically, we have from Sullivan to Maple. When I say 7 services, we have to dig them up to continue to check. I don't know if they're going to be, full replacements, partial replacements, or what. So I'm asking for $25,000 more dollars. I have the money in my budget. So my operating expenses in my budget are mainly for like water main breaks, service line breaks, and stuff like this. This is the area that we would have had to do that in anyway, that I anticipate us having breaks in. So I basically, instead of replacing a hydrant on Day Street or, it's like that. The materials that I would spend to repair some stuff is, I put that money in my budget. We're taking from there.
I'm not trying to do a hard buy. I'm just.
Right.
So what happens if there is a break? What happens if we spend this money, then there is a break? Or what?
We'll have to take it. We'll have to move money around out of the water from like the tools and supplies. We have like different line items. Like I'm moving it out of operating supplies over to the lead and copper. So I have monies in like tools and supplies and other contracts, meters. I'm very comfortable because this is where that stuff would have broke. So.
Being proactive, and that's good. I just want to assure budget wise. I just want to see where we were at that.
So, the goal for me, and it's looking really, really good, is to be lead free by 2025. And by knocking this part down and what a little bit I can get done next year in the Northwest area, we should, as long as we stay at this pace, we will be lead free by 2025.
Ought to be doing good.
That are grabbing onto this and taking care of business.
So I know Lapierre's doing it right now, and Emily City has started a program, but they just, after that water main break, they actually had lead showing up in their water. We did not. So that was good. But I have to move some of my sampling sites around and stuff like that, and I can show you the lead we're finding. It's maybe a pile this, it would have never showed up on a test, the amount, but we are being proactive and we are getting, it's not just the lead, it's the galvanized too. The galvanized is what breaks. So that's what keeps us working, like in the winter, that's what breaks all the time. So by being proactive, we're also cutting down on our emergencies. So, but there are other other municipalities that are starting to do this. This company is totally phenomenal. The girls don't have to do anything in the office. This company does all the appointments. And like I said, they have a couple appointments and I don't want to tell the people I'm out of money. So that's kind of why I told them to keep working and, you know.
Handle this budget-wise. This is obviously extremely important. We had a deadline we have to meet on top of it, right?
Yes.
And so we jumped on it right away.
No,
This is just really important.
So-
I'll make the motion to approve the, 25,200 wall services.
Support that.
Thank you.
Good job, Brad.
Thank you.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Dykes, supported by Councilmember Kalka, to approve of Waldorf's proposition to complete the lead and copper service galvanized replacement on Johnson Street, amount of $25,200. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Good work, Brian. You're doing your job well. So now next, regular agenda item number 5, MDL road salt purchase for the winter 2023.
I'm just
2024.
staying here, so.
Yeah.
Give me a seat.
Make
So
it
this,
efficient.
yeah, this is just every year we have to do this. It's, I believe we just copied and pasted it from last year. But we start now and then the order actually goes in, I believe, in August. So this is when the state tries to get a pool of how much salt that they're going to be going out for bid. But we do have a new salt shed. Like right now we have anywhere from 30 to 50 tons left, which is what we want in reserve, just in case. I finally get a time where I have a reserve in case for emergencies and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and keep adding to it. I need 50 tons early and 100 tons late next year. If we keep having a little bit left over, that's fine. That's a reserve. Yeah, pretty much. But we did order a little bit more this last year. And I don't know if you guys are aware, you should be, but we are taking over the services for the DDA next year as well. So we'll have the extra salt for the parking lots and whatever they need.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Dykes, supported by Councilmember Glasser, to approve the MDL road salt purchase, 150 tons. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously approved. Next, regular agenda item number 6. You get to sit down, Brian.
Thank you.
Installment purchase agreement. This is for the 2023 Dodge Charger, which has been discussed in our previous meeting. We approved the purchase, and so we have to have 2 votes. One to approve the installment purchase contract as presented, and the second one would be adoption of resolution. Do we have discussion with regard to the installment purchase contract, which essentially meets the usual form, and the changes are as to the amount, and in the good old days, the interest rate was 2%. Now with it going on in the economy, we're lucky it's still 4%. Any discussion by council as to the proposed installment purchase contract?
So this has a not to exceed $50,000, but the installment purchase contract is $35,592, right? Yeah, I understand that. It's just not listed anywhere, so it just kind of open that the balance is for equipment and fitting, right?
It was included in our approval.
Last week, okay.
What the cost probably would be, because he's gonna be able to take some of the equipment off the retired car along with it.
Okay.
So he doesn't think it's gonna make that 50,000 mark, but you want to have a little bit of a
Cushion.
cushion for the outfit.
This is his terminology for it.
But he thought that a lot of the stuff would be able to be transferred from retired.
Exactly. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the installment purchase?
I'll support.
Was that you? Yeah, okay, sorry. Motion made by Councilmember Glasser, supported by Councilmember Conca to approve the installment purchase agreement as set forth on the record. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Unanimously approved. As part of this, we now move on to adoption of Resolution 23-02, Resolution 23-03-02, authorizing the installment purchase contract. It's a resolution. We have discussion. Do we have discussion on that issue? That essentially is required for the installment contract to be implemented.
The only comment I have is, for these type of purchases, I think that we should look in the future at buying them outright as opposed to pay by installments, especially with interest rates going up. You know, they've been low, so we haven't worried about it, but it's one of those things where if we have the money, why are we paying interest? So just want to put that on the record. That
Kim and I started talking about that the last time. Now that they're creeping up, it
yeah,
might
makes
be
less
better.
and less sense if interest rates are going up.
Yes.
With that being said, I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution 23-03-02, authorizing the installment purchase contract.
Support.
Motion made by Councilmember Steffler, supported by Councilmember Kalka, to approve Resolution 23-03-02. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Kalka,
Aye.
Councilmember Dyke, Councilmember Feldman,
Aye.
Councilmember Glasser, Councilmember Steffler,
Aye.
and President Schneider.
Aye. Resolution 23-03-02 is unanimously approved. Regular agenda item number 8, the ferric chloride purchase. So who's making the presentation on that?
Address that issue, Mr. President.
Please. Lord.
As you see in your packet, the memo from Supervisor Farley regarding the issue of the ferric chloride. You'll recall that last year we had a similar discussion because this particular product had a huge price increase, and we were fortunate where the vendor that we preferred honored a prior quote before the price went sky high, and we were able to secure product. But unfortunately, this particular product has had a huge spike increase again. So it's almost twice the price of what it was a year and a half ago. But we're starting to run low, and it looks like, the price is what it is. And so we want to make the purchase of this product now and make sure that we don't run out. And it's a very necessary product to meet the phosphorus requirements with Eagle. So we ask for your support in allowing us to procure the 4,000 gallons from PVS. Or I'm sorry, he's got Haviland down here. They are the lower cost by a dime. Last year we did get it from PVS.
I'll make the motion that we approve the purchase of 4,000 gallons of ferric chloride from Haviland for $9,480.
Motion by Councilmember Steffler, supported by President Pro Tem Dyke, to approve the purchase of the 4,000 gallons of the ferric chloride. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Objections? Unanimously approved. Lastly, our 4-County Community Foundation Return to Earn Program. Manager Trent, this is your baby.
Thank you. You'll recall last year we had the pleasure of 2 summer interns working with us, one with the DPW, one in the office area. And 4-County Community Foundation is having that program again this year. And they reached out to us to find out if we'd be interested based on your folks' approval of the ShareNet software that was presented to you at our meeting last month, that we would like to utilize a summer intern to work and be assigned to the DPW department again this year. And a large part of their responsibility would be taking the data that we have in our DPW records and entering it into the ShareNet program, which gives us GIS capabilities as well too. And we'll be able to transfer a lot of files that Rowe had produced in the past and be able to integrate it into this program as well. So that would be one of the major functions of a summer intern, working with Brian and his team again this year. And so we're asking for your approval to hire 1 summer intern for this coming year. And the cost is split in half. 4-County covers half of the cost, so it would only be $2,000 out of our pocket to have a summer intern for several months, from mid-May to mid-August, depending on when they're out of school and their availability. And I've already been receiving a couple of resumes from potential qualified individuals that I'll be reaching out to pending your approval tonight.
So you're working the process of selection, and then you bring your conclusion to council for its approval. As far as, obviously what I'm looking at is the qualifications of the candidate. So, okay.
So are they going to be doing, Brian, are you envisioning like manhole locations, catch basins, having them do the
Fire
GPS locations, all
fire hydrants, curb stops.
maintenance records? all
Yes,
of that?
that's what I was getting, lead and copper, if the system will take it. There's just a whole nother world out there with this program, and I feel like it's all in my head. If that makes any sense, we need,
Yeah.
I mean, I do have it on paper, but if the garage burns, then, it's gone.
Right.
We need it
Right.
in the cloud, so.
Oh, that's a really good project.
If our intern is, if our interns are successful this year, they were last summer, that's a good investment.
Would there be a chance that the intern we had last year would come back?
At the intern, we did reach out to that individual to find out if they were going to be interested in participating this year. They are graduating this year and are already being interviewed for full-time positions in the automotive industry. So,
Okay.
so we're missing out on
Figures.
Lindsay
Yes.
this year, but kudos to her for her future endeavors. So
Okay.
She was the one who was specializing in mechanical engineering.
She
Oh,
was,
quick,
yeah.
Pretty sharp young lady. Yep.
I'll make a motion to support the Foundation for August 2022 as part of the Fort County Return to Burn internship.
Support.
Motion by President Pro Tem Dyke, supported by Councilmember Feldman, to approve the Fort County Community Foundation Return to Earn program and our participation therein to hire one intern. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously approved. That does finish our regular agenda for this evening. Now is the time for public comment for non-agenda items. Evening, Greg.
I feel like I'm chasing my tail here again tonight.
The tail still exists?
Yeah, you know, that's poor choice of words, especially we was down south. But anyway, the last time I was here, we didn't really have much of a discussion. Mr. Dyke wanted documentation, and I've stated that I don't have documentation because I didn't make the repair, but the people that made the repairs were all out there taking pictures and whatnot. And Mr. Alex stopped by at the end of the day to see how the job went, and he told me that I told him that I was going to get a bill, and he said if I did, to bring it to the village council, and he agreed. He told me that. Nobody asked him any questions about his thoughts because he told me that when a new stop box was put in, the old stop box should have been replaced. We were all here. There was no questions asked. It's the first meeting I was at. I gave my version of the accounts. The village manager was here. He wasn't asked to confirm or deny anything. Second meeting went the same way. We're all here. He wasn't asked to confirm or deny anything. Like I said, Mr. Dyke wanted documentation. Like I said, I didn't do the work, so I don't have any, but there was a lot of people out there taking pictures. And apparently, it's made it into the minutes of the first meeting that I came to back in November that I was told the repairs were going to be made and I was going to receive the brunt of the bill, which had I been told that, I would have said, I will take care of it. That way I could control the cost of the repairs. And I was also told when this whole deal first started out that it was my responsibility if the leak was on between the valve and the house, it was my responsibility. And if it was between the valve and the street, it was the village's responsibility. Well, the day they came down there, and it took me 5 months to convince them that there was a water leak. They were down there for an hour and a half, and all of a sudden they worked on it and they tried to shut the valve off and do different things, which the valve hasn't been shut off since it was put in new, I'm sure, because there's a shut off in the house, and I've changed toilets and faucets and stuff for my dad, and we just go in the basement and turn the water off, so there's no need to have that valve shut off. And I was going to come to the following meeting, and the village manager called me and told me that his staff couldn't be here due to a conflicting schedule. I said, well, why do we need him here, the DPW guy? He said, well, to make the conversation worthwhile. So I said, okay. Well, at the time I wasn't working, so coming down here on Tuesday evening wasn't a big deal. And then I got a job working 15 hours a day, and it was a big deal. And so anyway, I kind of think that if I was told that this was going to give me a bill, that repairs were going to be made and I was going to get a bill, I wouldn't come down here and say, why did I get a bill? Because I would have retained that. And another thing is, I went and the first meeting I was at here, I'd commented that I'd marked the shutoff valve. I'd found a shutoff valve, and I'd marked it with the rod sticking out of the ground. And I called the village manager, and I told him this, and he goes down there, and he lets me know that day or the next day, and he was on speakerphone with my brother, and I'd mentioned the fact that he laughed at me pretty hard because when he told me that he was down there and checked the rod sticking out of the ground that I'd used to mark the valve, that there was no shut-off valve there. And when I told him that this was getting ridiculous, that, I mean, you put a rod in the ground to mark a valve and you go down there and you can't find the valve. Well, then he goes down there the next day and he finds the valve after laughing at me and says to me, well, nobody really put their fingers in the grass. And if you guys don't mind looking at this, this is after the repair was made, and I painted the rod orange so that you could see it in the grass, but it was sticking up out of the ground, and it was in the ground further because there was water coming out of the ground in a hole the size of 2 fingers that I could stick my fingers in the hole where the water was coming up. So these guys, they'd had a discussion there that the valve probably wasn't going to work and whatnot. So they come down here, what I suggested they do at first was to come down and cut the rod off and try to shut it off. Well, then it was, after this meeting there, it was decided that the valve wasn't going to work being that old anyway. So the next morning after the meeting, the village manager shows up with his staff from a DPW. They come in, ask, can they shut the water off? I said, yep. So they go down, the first thing they do is cut the tube off around the shaft, and they rip and tear on the shaft trying to shut the valve off. And it went from 5 months, he'd been down there several times, the DPW guy had been down there several times. I couldn't convince them that there was a water leak because there's no water line down there. They kept telling me it was ponding water. The DPW guy told me my water line ran from the new shutoff, the new stop box that they put in at the end of the new water line that stopped at the neighbor's house, and ran across the neighbor's yard under my driveway to where it tied into the house, which does not make any sense because that way, if I have a water leak, we got to dig up the neighbor's yard. And so just one thing after another, and these guys are down there for an hour and a half, and then next thing you know, we've got an emergency repair. So whatever. So then they start digging into it, and next thing you know, about middle of the afternoon there, the village manager tells me I'm going to get an accrued bill. And I said, well, why am I getting a bill? He says, well, the valve was leaking on both sides. Well, it wasn't leaking that bad before they went down there and started in on it.
I don't mean to be rude, Greg.
Yes.
You get 3 minutes.
Okay.
You probably exceed
Well,
it.
anyway,
Well, just a second.
yes.
This has come before council multiple times, and we've gone round and round and round, talking about chasing your tail. Did you receive a notification from our manager offering a compromise? And if you accepted it, fine. And if you didn't, then we were going to bill them. Was there communication between you and
Yeah, well, that's,
Greg? Okay, so council essentially took a stand. At that point, you accepted the offer that we made or not, and if you didn't, then you're billed for it. And you weren't available. We had to take. You weren't available. We're available. You weren't here to discuss it, and we have seen that photograph and multiple photographs from our DPW. And so we've looked at this and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And we finally made a decision. And if anybody in council thinks our position should be changed, so let's hear it. Something along those lines.
oh, it was $300. The notice I got was like $300 off of over $3,000 bill.
But yeah, so what
It
was the offer?
reduced by a third,
It was reduced by a third. Right.
at
Yeah.
least.
Mhm. So even though council was never fully convinced that your side of the argument was correct and you shouldn't be billed, we made that decision. Let's give Greg some sort of a break here because it is contentious. There's never a full agreement of the minds versus your argument. and DPW's argument, and none of us are really specialists in the kind of field that you're talking about. So we came to that decision, and that's our
Well,
decision.
don't,
Unless council wants to open the door based on presentation by Mr. Stanlick this evening.
I'm not trying to be rude either, sir, but don't you think that if I was gonna get the bill, I should have been told that when the work got started, instead of they come down and they run it up with, and I don't, and I know you, I've been here before, I'm tired of coming here too, but like I said, the last meeting I was at, I was supposed to come to the following meeting and I was planning on being here, and the village manager called me and told me, asked me if I could come to a later meeting because his staff wasn't available. So how does that factor in? Or apparently it doesn't. I mean,
Factors in that our staff could not be here on that evening, and if we were gonna have a discussion about it, a relevant discussion, they needed to be here, so it needed to be postponed.
right, well, I happened to be in Arizona that day, and I called the village manager this afternoon and told him that I was gonna be here. That if the staff could be here, we could have that conversation.
Unfortunately, when we've had it on the agenda before, like we've had all the information in front of us, and we don't have it in front of us tonight. So if you wanted to come and present something, we need more notice than I'm coming to the meeting tonight.
So is this done, or can we go farther? You're making it sound like it's still open, and like I said, I called this afternoon when I found out at 4 o'clock that I could be here. I called and talked to the man that told me that his staff couldn't be here. And what he said to me today was, what is there to discuss? Well, why did he need to have his staff here to make the conversation worthwhile?
It's a he said, she said, because we've been told that he wanted DPW involved. He called DPW down to work on it. He's saying now that he didn't want DPW to work on it. It's a he said, she said. We had the information. We've given you a discount. I don't think there's any more to be discussed.
Following up on what Professor Protem is saying, Greg, we made a decision. It's not open.
Okay, I
And
understand.
unless council wants to reopen this issue, which speak up if you are, to change the position we took before, we made a decision and the decision was conveyed to you. And
And we took into consideration what he said previously. We
Yeah,
took into consideration of the information we had from staff.
Right.
We talked about it at that meeting for probably more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Debating it back and forth.
mhm.
Well,
I wasn't at one of those ones, but yeah.
They were
the other
between
2 times.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, when we talked about it.
I understand what you're saying, sir, but I couldn't get a cut and dried answer as to who was responsible for the repair. Nobody said. First, it's like I said, they said, if it's on my side of the valve, I'm responsible. On my side of valve to the house, it's my responsibility. The valve to the street is village responsibility. When they got done with it, it was leaking on both sides when they opened it up. So why do I have to pay to fix the village's side? If the village has got a leak, wouldn't you think that they would fix it while they had it opened up, taking care of their responsibility?
There's a disagreement, Greg. And because of the disagreement, and as was portrayed by President Pro Tem, it's a he said, she said situation where there is no mutuality here. You take one position, our DPW supervisor takes a different position. Council has gone over and over in this again and again, and we've made a decision.
Okay, that's fine.
And
But I-
so it's not open at this point.
Okay, but I would just like to say, I don't understand why we're all here. The 2 times I was here, we were in the room together. We didn't have a discussion amongst all of us. I don't understand how that happened. Okay, so,
It's unfortunate.
I guess my
But
mother,
we tried to, what happens in a situation where there's no agreement on both sides? So if you're a judge, for example, it's a compromise. And we compromised. We didn't have to do that. We could have just said, you're stuck with the entire bill. We didn't. We gave your argument some weight in that we took 1/3 off the bill, which is a fairly sizable amount. And
okay,
that was the best we could do.
so let me ask you this. The original bill was $3,300 roughly there. So, Can my mother pay the 2/3 and be done with it? Or is that offer been retracted, or where are we at with that? If it was reasonable then, I don't see why it's not reasonable now.
The offer, I mean, the invoice was sent in the mail to the address that we have on record with a letter indicating that council had approved a reduction in the invoice by approximately a third. And we're more than happy to accept payment for that invoiced amount.
Well, the original bill was $3,300 and a reduced bill was taking like $300 off. And I'm not as smart as you guys are, but $300 is not a third of $3,300, I don't believe.
Happy to recheck our records, sir, but I'm pretty positive that the final bill was approximately $2,100.
All right, well, so where are we at with that? Can we go with that, or where are we at?
I will
Because-
check our records, and assuming that my recollection is correct, we will resubmit that invoice to you folks.
All right, I appreciate it.
And if that's paid, that will close the matter.
All right,
It's not perfection, Greg.
pardon me?
It's not perfection. What is?
I hear you.
Best you can.
All right, thank you, I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thank
well, thank you for your presentation and being civil. It's been a longstanding issue and very frustrating. Well, do best we can, right?
All right, y'all have a good
Okay.
evening.
You also.
Okay, all right. Take care, Greg.
Okay, we're going home.
Yep. Okay. Looks like we can move to council manager comment time. That was fun. Anything to bring to council manager, Trent?
Just one last comment on this issue that we've just been discussing for the last several minutes. And that is that my recollection, when we discussed that item and the compromise offer was made, we had broken down the invoice between outside vendor cost and internal. And we decided that the appropriate approach to try to resolve the matter from a cost standpoint was have Mr. Stan Lake pay for the outside vendor cost, and we would subsidize our own internal costs as far as manpower and equipment. And it was
That's what I
approximately
remember.
1/3 of the cost. And, so it's a ballpark, $2,100 to $2,200 was what the bill was sent. It was reduced. And I'll double check our records.
I didn't want to go back and forth, but if I remember correctly, he kept calling us, we kept telling him it's a private deal, it's called a private contractor, that we need involvement with the private contractor.
We informed him for 5 months to contact a plumber. That's what we didn't.
Wasn't it incorrectly connected?
No, he lives in the township, so the water main stops in the village. So his water line does cut across his neighbor's yard. But that's not the only, that's just because the water main does not go in the township.
He's on the western,
Yeah.
he's just
Yeah,
west of the
so-
boundary.
Yeah, on
The village
West St.
boundary.
Clair, right?
Yeah,
So the
yes.
shut off,
Yeah.
the
Right.
shut off is out
South side, south
in the
side.
village and the line goes into his, yeah.
I remember you showing us pictures with
Yeah.
the wrong kind of connection, the wrong
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of water line. There was like,
I don't think
all
I was at the
wrongs
meeting
all
you guys.
over.
Yeah, and
Spell.
this is the first time I
with
ever met him,
Brian.
just now.
Hang out.
I've never talked to him. I was on vacation, and in fact, when he wanted to meet in November again, I was going on vacation. So this is something my crew handled, which I thought they handled it well. We were told to fix it, and we did. I don't care about the money. That's you guys,
Yeah.
The only other information I wanted to share with you folks is that we did have success at our legislative day with the Michigan Downtown Association. Senator Johnson was very supportive of our inquiry to see if we could get some supplemental monies for our East and West St. Clair project. And she said she would submit an appropriation for $1 million into next year's budget. And so we're going to work the system. We have identified key members on both sides of the political aisle that are part of the Appropriations Committee. And we'll be doing our best to ensure that that gets under the Christmas tree this year. And in a similar vein, we submitted a request with Senator Peters' office for congressional directed spending that he is accepting requests for. And we submitted requests of $4.4 million to help fund our water and sewer projects. So if we're successful in getting that, we'll take a similar approach next year with the state and see if we can get, some supplemental funding to help us out in that regard as well too. But if we're successful in getting approved from Senator Peters' office, the vast majority of our CIP projects for water and sewer will be undertaken with these two initiatives that we're discussing here. So very optimistic about the future and our ability to implement these plans.
And the Senator Peters matter, that's for 2024, correct? Okay. Thank you. Do you have anything to bring? No? Wayne? Pete?
So I'll take up Jim's torch for a second.
Which one?
So, So how are we doing with the South Bristol Street? I see on the report. So next week, they're in litigation until 4/1.
Actually, they signed off on a different course of action, and they have until April 1st to completely remove the blight from the backyard. And if they do not do that, we have the ability, per the revised contract with the homeowner, to bring in resources and remove the materials and charge them accordingly. And they can pay the bill direct or immediately, or we can add it to their tax bill next year. So, but she agreed to that approach, and she recognizes that it's an issue, and that it's her son that lives in the home, and that she is, as our lawyer said, enabled him to continue the process, and we're stepping up to the plate and taking corrective action.
So was there any indication that, is it a lack of resource on their end? Is the easiest route to just let it go and then let the village handle it and pay a bill? Or because
I
lack
couldn't say.
of,
She acted like, in her conversation with our attorney, that she would step up to the plate and take care of the problem. And per the agreement that was going before the judge for final approval, that because basically she was waiving, the court process, and we are taking advantage of that because we think it's in our favor from a timeline standpoint. And so if she doesn't resolve the issue, we can take care of it per the contract.
Assessment of that issue is that this resolution that was worked out is superior to what would have happened court-wise. Yeah, it's much more effective, and that's one of the things we appreciate our manager doing. If you start working with the citizens, working something like that out, it's normally, and in this situation, I think it's true, it's just superior to what would have happened in front of Judge Barnard. So, yeah, this was a good workout, I think. And it is a mess back there. Take a look. Jeez.
And as Councilmember Alec mentioned, and I appreciated his willingness to offer assistance to that family, and basically he was rebuffed. So there are people that have tried to, do the Good Samaritan deed and reach out to that family, and it's been a prolonged process. It was in existence when I came on board a year and a half ago, and so I contacted Attorney Gildner at the beginning of the year and said, what's our best course of action to address this? We came up with the, citation and go to court. And then we came up with a different game plan that basically helped us from a timeline standpoint and would ensure this didn't get dragged out through the court process, giving her more additional time through the summertime, because you know, they've been cited a number of times for the blight issue, so.
Is that? Okay. Tim? Mindy?
Nothing tonight.
I just want to let everybody know that the Elmont Lions is going to be having a Easter egg hunt on April 8th at 10:30 to 12:30. And also there's going to be cleanup in the village as well as the park on April 22nd. More times to follow on that.
Stuff that the DDA is doing.
Yes,
Yep.
it's all together
Yep.
inside the village as well as at the park. Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, thanks for all the good work that you do, Jackie, with regard to the park board. Thank goodness. And budget-wise, when it's coming up, we'd like to see, taking a good look at what we're going to be giving to the park. I think it's important, significance, the community is rising. And I just might mention to council, if you are aware of any good citizens who have the ability to reason well and are practical and use common sense and maybe a little common decency, if they like to be on council, lobby, because this is always an important issue. And previously, Angela Edwards had been a candidate, and when she came in second, now with her, she's presently president of the school board, and she's executive director of DDA board. So not likely she'll be a candidate. And so, yeah, we need to fill the seat. So if we know any willing and special people that we'd like to see on, see what you can do. Because we want to fill the seat, and we want to fill it with somebody that's going to be in addition to the council, and not be otherwise. We're adjourned. Chance to resolve it with Stanley, and Greg's a good guy. It's back and forth, but it got.